Welcome everybody to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. Although today is a special edition, Vancouver Canucks edition. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Matt, Canucks are on a bit of a streak. They're now 4-2 with game in hand on many of the teams that are out there. They're in New Jersey tomorrow morning for a game, afternoon if you're in the East. And also New York Rangers Sunday morning or afternoon if you're in the East. But tomorrow is going to be the battle of the Hughes brothers. But the last two games, Canucks last night, they pull off a 4-3 shootout victory in the sixth round of the shootout. Josh Levo scores a great goal to win it for them. And, of course, they dominate Detroit 5-1 the night or a couple nights before that in Vancouver. What has stood out for you, and what are some of the things that you've observed in this start so far for the Canucks? That being said, by the way, there's no injuries yet.
I know, that's the craziest thing. It's just like you're just sort of waiting and waiting. It's just like, hey, we got through another game and going down. Edler and Tanev are still haven't taken a blocked a shot or whatever, and then gone out for a couple of weeks. But yeah, like I think the two biggest things, well, for one, goaltending between Markstrom and Thatcher Demko the past two games, filling in for Markstrom while he's been on personal leave, was outstanding once again against St. Louis, especially in that third period when it was a one-goal game. He had that huge toe save on Barbashev on the wraparound, and then a little later, I think they didn't show the replay during the game, but there was a nice pass across where he came across, made a nice blocker save, and just held the team in it. And then, of course, the penalty kill, tops in the NHL right now. They're 19 for 20, operating at 95%. They killed off their second, I guess, yeah, it wasn't back-to-back games, second straight where they had to kill off a lengthy 5-on-3. And between the goaltending and the defense, they've just been able to keep teams at bay and get that puck out. Like Edler and Tanev have been great. Sutter, Beagle, and all those guys have been great on the PK. The power play still needs a little work. We'll get into that a little bit later. But goaltending and the PK, and then and then if you want to get into individual players up front, like JT Miller, once again, right back at it, leads the team 4 goals, 8 points.
Let's get into the forwards in a sec. Let's talk about the defense for a sec. Only 6 defensemen so far that they've had to play.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they decided to let Biega go and trade him. Although he returned to Vancouver the other night and actually looked like one of the better Red Wings. But Oscar Fattenberg waiting to play. I know he's been sick. I wonder if they get him in a game anytime soon. But usually at this point, we've already seen 8 or 9 defensemen that have had to play a game. But to have those 6 that they have, what are your thoughts so far as a group collectively, whether it's penalty killing, power play, and the ice time that they're getting? What's standing out for you?
All right. Well, I'll touch on the big one because I've been super upset with Alex Edler on the power play. Minus the power play stuff, I think him and Myers have actually done a pretty good job together. Myers still has some little brain.
The old Kelowna Rocket pairing.
Yeah. It's like I think Myers, overall has been playing pretty good. He still has some brain cramps here and there in the defensive zone that I see, but like offensively, he's been great jumping up into the play and creating offense. Edler does his thing in the defensive zone. The power play, though, I'm getting sick and tired of him just doing long point shots into the team's shin pads and not using his teammates as well. It's like that has to be Quinn Hughes' spot. Like I know that the Detroit game that they went off for 3 power play goals in that game. But you're not to be getting like these long wrist shots through traffic for goals every night. It's for just getting Quinn Hughes on there, just the mobility and his vision to make plays out of nothing. And just to set up Besser and Pettersson for one-timers. Because we saw we had a 2-minute 5-on-3 last night against the St. Louis Blues. And it was just atrocious puck movement. We couldn't get a couple passes going. It was just stagnant. But yeah, it's just like, but outside of that, like again, but yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing until Hughes gets on power play one. I think everything else on the defense has been good. Like Tanev and Hughes as a pairing have looked great. Tanev's just like Tanev actually looks pretty rejuvenated playing with Hughes. Going back from last season where it's like he was dealing with injuries all the time, and he had a bit of a down season, just getting trapped in his own zone a lot, which was basically what led to him blocking a gazillion shots last season. And then that bottom pairing with Ben and Stetcher. I still think Stetcher should be getting more ice time. He's only averaging a little over 13 minutes a night, but it's been like this every year with with Travis Green behind the bench, where Stetcher's ice time starts off a little like really low, and then as the season goes along, then he gets more and more trust, and then eventually he gets into that top four spot. And him and Ben, I thought, have been doing a pretty solid job on that bottom pairing.
Well, and I think for Stetcher, it's a matter of the matchups and stuff that they see throughout the games. But speaking of Jordy Ben, Jordy Ben and Tyler Myers seem to be paired together as the second PK unit with Edler and Tanev killing on the first. They've done a heck of a job so far. And the amount of shots those guys are eating is kind of crazy too. But the goaltending behind them has been great. And I think, you touched on it a little bit, the goaltending. Markstrom's now back with the team. McIntyre sent back down to Utica. I'm pretty sure he'll get into at least one of the games this weekend. But Thatcher Demko, great job stepping up in Markstrom's absence. And, I think he's looked fantastic. Now that the Canucks have two consistent goaltenders, it really feels like they're back on track. Do you see them, like right now, I think you mentioned they're in the second wild card spot with game in hand on just about everybody. Do you see them keeping this up, or is it just a lull right now in the schedule where they're having a little bit easier of a time with the opponents? Because I do know at the end of November, they got, Nashville, Winnipeg, Dallas. The schedule does get harder for them. But right now it's Detroit, Jersey, Rangers. And in division teams inside, the Pacific Division seem to be pretty weak compared to some of the other teams around the NHL.
Yeah, I think they can get going because like we're not even talking about like Besser and Pedersen. Like they haven't had like those big games. Even Horvat's been pretty quiet offensively to start the season. So like to get all these wins and those guys not have like that signature like moment yet of just dominating the game. It shows a lot of character for this team because the game last night against St. Louis, they're not winning that game last year. It's just there was no chance that they were winning. So just to have that compete level and just continue to grind it out and chip away at it was great. And look, and especially how all the goals were scored last night too. They were just all like in front of the net. They were just all going for battles, which was something the Canucks weren't really scoring many goals like that last season. And I think if they can continue to play and gain some confidence, because when you start playing those tougher teams, because I think the goaltending will hold up, because that's another big thing. Because like last year, if Markstrom wasn't in net and before Demko was called up, we couldn't trust any of the goalies to get a win. Anders Nielsen was inconsistent with his play. Sometimes he looked good, and other times he looked bad. Even though a lot of the games that he played were against really tough teams.
Yeah.
But Demko, like just having a goalie like that, a younger goalie that you can trust and can just step in and just not lose a beat at all. Because he has like a 938 save percentage in the two games. And just having that quiet swagger, because like that shootout, like he stopped all 6 shooters, and like outside of like the O'Reilly post, like he barely had to move for to make any of the saves, and he's got that athleticism that you really like in a goalie. And Markstrom, of course, like if you go back to that Flyers game where he stood on his head there, and then and then in the shootout he was great once again. So just having 2 consistent goalies every night, because that's all a lot of the teams in the NHL now. You got to have 2 goalies that you can play, and you're sort of going around like that 50, 55, 20, 30 split sort of thing. So, but yeah, between that and just knowing like that the big guns haven't gone off, I think that gives me a lot of confidence they can continue forward, because when Pettersson and Besser get on those hot streaks, then you're going to see a lot more wins start to come.
Yeah, and for me, they don't look like they've got the rhythm yet this year, but they're finding a way to win. They're getting a different line every night to kind of step up. We saw the Beagle line, the fourth line, play fantastic against Detroit the other night, and then they absolutely wet the bed last night against St. Louis, so they didn't really play much in the third period. But they're, and they seem grittier and tougher than they were last year. And we saw that against Detroit with, a guy like Schaller that absolutely levels Dylan Larkin. Most of the time last year, that wouldn't have happened because there's nobody there to have his back. Now you got guys like Michael Furlan and Tyler Myers skating around on the ice. Even Jordy Ben, right? They're guys that are a little bit tougher, a little bit grittier, bring a little bit more sandpaper. You have guys on your team now that will kind of cover your back for you. So it's nice to see, but up in the forwards right now, Gaudette's a healthy scratch right now. Do you see him getting back in the lineup anytime soon with the way the forwards are playing?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because he got that sort of that surrounding cast on the fourth line with Schaller and Mott that could probably come in and out of the lineup depending on what you want to do, because with New Jersey it's more of a skilled team. So I'm not sure if they want to put a little bit more pace with Gaudette. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets into one of these weekend games. But thing to keep an eye on is if he does become more and more of a consistent, healthy scratch, I think it would be better off to send him down to Utica to get the minutes and call up one of the veteran players if they're not going to play. Because the biggest thing is you still want to develop him. And if he's just going to be in the press box for the majority of the time, then it's not worth having him up. But yeah, I'm guessing you'll get into at least one of these upcoming games on the weekend, because it just all depends. Because Tim Schaller, but it's you bring up the Detroit game, they were great, and they brought some good physical play as well, which is something that we didn't see enough of last season. But yeah, I'm hoping he does. But it sort of depends on how Green wants to shape the lineup, I guess, depending on the opponent.
And the way they set up the team at the beginning of the year by sending Goldobin and Barchi down to Utica, to me that automatically told me that Gaudette's probably going to be the guy that gets sent down when Antoine Roussel comes back. Everybody I know would still love to see them get rid of the Louis Eriksson contract, but at this point, I don't see them doing that because again, it comes back to asset management and whatnot. So if you got to protect Gaudette or a player, you can move Gaudette down because he doesn't have to clear waivers to make room for Roussel. And then it'll be interesting to see what they do with that lineup, that's for sure. But it's a good problem to have. I mean, they've had consistency throughout the lineup. There's nobody really, other than JT Miller and his offense. The top line, they're getting their offense, they're getting their points. But they haven't controlled the game yet, like you said. But what else has stood out for you so far from the squad, whether it's a forward, a defense, or a goaltender?
Yeah, so just trying to remember. Yeah, so like Horvat, I think that second line, or I think they still need to find that third guy, because I think Pearson and Horvat have played really well. Josh Lebo, he's done an admirable job when they've moved him up there, but I still want to they need to find that guy that can just fit in chemistry wise with them, because they tried Miller there to start the season. And he actually looked really good. But then you had Pettersson and Besser that were off to slow.
Furlan played there against Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Furlan's another guy. I'm happy he got the goal last night, but I'm just hoping you're expecting a little bit more. He hasn't had that game where he's just hit everybody inside, because us as Canuck fans, it's just we just remember that Calgary playoff series or whatever. Whenever we think
he might be one of those silent guys that struggles throughout the season, but then absolutely goes beast mode in the playoffs too, right? But that goal he scored last night, that's exactly how he scores his goals. He's in front of the net, and then he gets those loose pucks, those rebounds, and puts them in the back of the net. And maybe just trying to find a good fit for him on the power play. I know they brought him back onto the second unit last game,
But yeah, it's just like I would like to see a little bit more ice time for him. It's now that he's getting his legs back from being sick and everything. Hoping you can get a little bit more chemistry there. But I think like the big guy that's going to fill in that second line spot might be Antoine Roussel when he comes back from injury, even though that's still a ways out before he's back in the lineup. But him and Horvat showed pretty good chemistry last season. And I guess they moved Pearson onto the right wing if they wanted to do that. But there's a lot of options because JT Miller's that guy that you'd like to be on that line, but he's just so good everywhere else at elevating guys' play that.
I personally would like to see Virtanen there. I know that Travis Green doesn't really like to put him and Horvat together for whatever reason, but for whatever reason, I've seen Horvat and Virtanen have a lot of chemistry throughout Virtanen's career anyways, and I'd like to see it. I'd like to see them give it a try because they both skate very fast north-south, and it would be interesting to see what that looked like if they're willing to do that, but
yeah, technically Sven Berchi would be the guy that I would have wanted on that line, but he's down in the minors, so I can't nothing much I can do there. But yeah, just with the other guys there's a couple options, but I think they'll just sort of cycle through everything, which is something that you don't want with Horvat from last season. When he played with basically everybody on the team last season, but at least having him and Pearson together and keeping them as a duo, at least that keeps them together. Because like Pearson, I know he hasn't gotten as many goals or something as I think, but I think every game he's sort of been right in the thick of it, sort of thing between him and Horvat. So, and at least Horvat got off the schneid too with his first goal of the season as well last night because he's gotten some chances and stuff. He just hasn't been able to bury anything until last game.
Speaking of Sven Barchi and the Utica Comets, they've got off to a great 3-0 start. Barchi, Goldobin, Coland, Reed Boucher, they seem to be lighting it up for the Comets. But also at the back end, Brogan Rafferty and Josh Teves seem to be absolutely leading the way, plus-minus wise and controlling wise. What do you have for us with the farm team right now?
Yeah, so just updating everybody on stats. Well, the big one with the NHL guys, Nikolai Goldobin and Sven Berchi. Goldobin has 4 assists in 2 games, including a 3-assist game last night, or two nights ago, where he had a couple sick assists. I think one on a 2-on-1 where he's on his off wing and sort of stopped off and then let the defenders slide by him and actually took out the goalie and then went up for a backdoor tap in for Zach McEwen. And then he had a nice stretch pass from his own zone to the far blue line to spring a guy for a breakaway goal. And then Berchi has 3 assists in 2 games. So both of the guys are showing that they should be in the NHL or on an NHL roster at least. Reed Boucher, of course, we know he can do it in the American League. He has 5 goals, 6 points in the 3 games. It just sucks that his skating isn't up to NHL par because his shot is absolutely lethal. He's just stuck in that tweener mode where he's really good in the AHL but not good enough to play consistently in the NHL. And Cole Lind, 4 assists in 3 games. He had a 3-assist game to start the season playing on a line with Reed Boucher. But from all the reports I've seen, he looks like a different player from last season where he really struggled in his first pro season, which is great to see because between him and Gadovich with those second-round picks that they had, it was a little troublesome just seeing them rip it up in junior and then do absolutely really nothing last year. And basically we got played either on the 3rd or 4th line. And Lind and I think Gadovich, I think they both struggled with injuries too last season. And then you brought up that the Josh Teves and Brogan Rafferty pairing. Rafferty's a +6 in 3 games, and Teves is a +5. Rafferty has 2 assists, and Teves has 1. They look to be forming a pretty solid pair. Olli Juolevi has 1 assist in the 3 games. He's a -3. But going back to like last season, like I know he had the 18 games, he had the 13 points, but he was also like a -13, I believe, in that time there. So I'm not sure how much at fault he is, just because I haven't seen as much video footage. But hopefully on the defensive side, he can do a little bit better. But yeah, those are the big guys that we're keeping an eye on in Utica. And then just going to other prospect wise.
By the way, it's really nice to know that the Canucks actually have some depth this year. They have 4 or 5 guys that could easily be called up in Utica.
Yeah,
And, whether that's forwards or defense. So
yeah, it's just so nice because usually like the last couple of years it's just like, oh, okay, I guess we got that guy that can.
because not a lot of people are talking about Zach McEwen, and he was pretty close to being NHL ready.
Yeah.
You got Barchi down there, Goldobin, Colin maybe still a year away. But on the defense, I mean, Brisebois, Sautner, they both played a lot of games for the Canucks towards the end of last season. And then you got Rafferty and Tevez, who are, to me, they look more NHL ready than anybody on that team defensively wise. And then you still got Chatfield and O'Leary. So it's really interesting to see. Like, they have 6 guys, in my opinion, that are close or fringe NHL players that are all playing defense there. So it's nice to see that kind of depth.
Yeah, and then you get to the goaltending, like DiPietro got in his first game and got the win. Wasn't busy. He only faced like 18 shots and stopped 15 of them. But it's good for him to get that confidence because I think I saw the one goal that he let in, and it's going to be like that thing where it's his size, where he went down, he got beat over his shoulder, where it's just like he's going to have to try to find that perfect spot or whatever with his game with his size, but that's the point of the American League is to develop until you're NHL ready. But yeah, it's just good for him to get that first W. And then lastly, just going over the last of the prospects that stood out. Vasily Pakolsin. There we go. He's been all over the place in Russia. He's gotten in 10 games in the KHL and went pointless, but he's sort of been either like a 13th forward or used very sparingly on the 4th line. And then he's got a goal and 4 assists, a goal and 4 points in 9 games in the VHL, which is sort of like the American League, I guess, for Russia. And he's looked pretty good there. And then going to the WHL, where we have 2 guys playing for the Calgary Hitmen. Jet Wu has a goal and 3 points in 7 games. And Carson Vogt has 4 goals and 10 points in 6 games. Both of those guys could be invited possibly heading closer to December for Canada's World Junior team. Something to keep an eye on. And the last 2 I'll bring up, the Canucks second-round pick from this year's draft, Nils Hoglander, has 2 goals and 3 points in 7 games in the Swedish Elite League. He was serving a suspension. He nailed a guy with an elbow to the head, which showed a bit of his ferocity because he's only like 5'8" or 5'9", something like that. So he's got that. And then Tyler Madden is pointless in 3 games with Northeastern to start the season. But I have seen a couple clips on Twitter, and he's got some pretty nice dangles putting some guys out. But yeah, so that's basically the prospect update. Minus the guys that are already in Utica right now. But yeah, it's exciting. The Canucks, they didn't have a 4-game win streak at all last season. You have to go all the way back to
87 games since their last 4-game win streak. So.
Yeah, and that's way back with the Sedin. So it's nice that they get this early confidence and start building some wins and playing those together, especially in a wide open division. In all the games in hand they have right now. I know it's super early, but the points that you get on early in the season mean just as much as the ones you get at the end of the season. So you want to build that pad up early in the season.
Absolutely. Well, the future looks bright, and so far the seasons look bright. So, Matt, final word before we wrap up today's show.
All right. Yeah. So we will be back on Monday with our B&B Hockey Talk NHL Roundup edition. We'll be going over a lot of stuff. Like there's already been some big news with the lengthy suspension to Valentin Zykov, the John Tavares broken finger out a couple of weeks. All that
Nico Hershiser's extension today.
Oh yeah, Nico that huge.
He got paid very much. So.
Yeah. So we'll have a lot of talking points, and then whatever happens this weekend as well, we'll be going over on Monday. And you can follow all the highlights coming up on our Facebook page. I think only six games tonight, and then I'll see what I do for highlights because I got hockey Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night. So highlights might be off here and there, but I'll let you guys know if I either do the top highlights or all the highlights. Just enjoy the weekend, and I'll be looking forward to the Canucks games, especially I'll be able to see both of them because they're really
Yeah.
so
A little early for Shotgun Jake, but hey, never too early for him to break out
yeah.
and put in a few goals. So thanks for listening, everybody. Remember to hit that subscribe button. You're welcome to share our content, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook. We appreciate it. B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron. He's Matt. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you on Monday.